weekend. And if you want to go into a bit of granular detail, Pirelli, I'm sure, will tell us which compound it is.
Sure, but that was impressive from Bottas, to be honest. That was a very good time.
I'm interested to see how his season pans out.
Yes,
this is quite a crucial one for him because Mercedes stuck with him. They were loyal to him. Lewis is very vocal in his support of him. That dynamic clearly works between the two of them. And you know, is this his moment to shine? You know, he's got Esteban Ocon breathing down his neck, and there's a lot of people that would love to see Ocon. We had a chat with him earlier today. He's going to be hopefully coming on our review show.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what we said to Mercedes? If you say it on air, it then has to happen.
Tricks of the trade.
Well,
so
I asked Esteban, can you come on the show? Yeah, I'm going to try and come on the show at 6:05.
Quick recap here by these tyres to say, look, we've got 2 of these, 1 of these and 2 of these.
Okay, right, we can hear from Valtteri Bottas, who was speaking to Craig Slater earlier on.
Okay, don't worry. Okay, no worries.
Maybe amongst the things you might wish to change the emphasis, did you try and play a bigger part in the conversation in terms of the direction the car development was going in? Is this a car that you feel particularly at home in, that maybe aids your best characteristics?
It is too early to say. I think still with the development, the characteristics are gonna change a bit, but nothing kind of fundamentally wrong. And normally my style has been to kind of adapt into the car. That in theory is always the best way to go, because not every year the car can be perfect for you. So for sure, I think equally me and Lewis been involved with the development with engineers. But as we know nowadays, it's also a lot kind of based on simulations. What kind of car in theory is the quickest, but you still need to take the driver feedback, and I would say equally so with Lewis being part of that.
I mean, he spoke at some length yesterday about the good conversations the two of you have in terms of car development. You wonder, though, some people from the outside maybe perceive your relationship as almost a bit too friendly to allow you to both be competitive, you know, maybe yourself in particular. Is that a false perception?
I think so, because, you know, we realized that if we can work together inside the team in the meetings, it's benefiting us as drivers. We are going to be having a quicker car and better development. It's better for us as a team. With a team, with the spirit we have, we can work more efficiently than if there would be massive issues. But we both know at the same time, when we put the helmet on, when we're in the car, we never want to be behind each other. So it's the same thing for me. I don't want to be behind Lewis, and I'll do everything for sure I can to be ahead. So, and he knows that as well. So it's very open. You know, there's no tricks or anything. So yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have good fun on track, battling each other. But yeah, we still do need to keep in mind that we need to try and develop the car, and maybe this year even more. It is important.
That looked like a slightly different demeanour.
Is that the impression that you got?
That's the impression I got there.
Like the facial hair.
I thought,
like
yes. I think that all goes with that demeanour that he's got. No, I don't know. I thought there was sort of a quiet confidence there. The eyes were a little bit more sort of intense than I've seen before. Be interesting
Body
how
language
that
expert
goes.
now.
No, but it just seemed to be something slightly different there. So I just wondered.
He knows what's on the line this year.
Yeah.
He knows that he's never going to have race-winning machinery in Formula One again unless something very strange happens with the regulations in 2021. We get a Brawn-type season. He's out of Mercedes. I think he'd stay in Formula One. He's a phenomenal driver. He's got great pace. Two things against him. He got very unlucky last year at crucial points, which could have changed the momentum of his season.
Yeah, let's go back to that.
And also,
who would have been winning the World Championship at the point of Azerbaijan?
Baku.
He would have been He would have been
say.
leading the championship if he won that race.
And he could have won in Bahrain as well,
what I mean.
leading in China.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally different season if that happened. We're not talking about the fact that he hasn't won a race since 2017 in Abu Dhabi.
He was unlucky.
High-speed moment for the Red Bull there, going through turn number 9. Gasly in the car today. Yeah, it's very, very difficult to see how Bottas stays with Mercedes unless he gets off to a fast start. But Johnny, you'll know this. If it's going well, there's very little to think about. How does he change his mentality for this year? Does he need to change the mentality?
I think there's a strength, maybe a mental strength, because he's up against Lewis, driving as best I've ever seen. So that's one challenge that you've got to sort of think about. But you've just got to sort of just apply yourself to what you know best.
Does he
then that it all then.
He pulled out the move.
On the last lap,
just
chance to win.
Come on, you know, he just wanted that ruthless edge that you've already talked about in this session to be there. Maybe he's just too much of a nice guy. I don't know.
I was speaking to Jolyon Palmer about that, former Renault driver, and we were watching the onboard of I don't think it had been broadcast at the time, and F1 made it available on their YouTube channel. We were watching it, and I was like, oh, that looks a little bit too far back. And Jolyon was adamant. He was like, it's the last lap.
Yeah,
the wind's on the line. You've got to go for it. And so he got unlucky at the start of the season. Maybe where the question is for Valtteri is, can he put a whole campaign together? Because we have seen in the last 2 seasons, when he's been at Mercedes, after the summer break, it could just be Lewis taking a step forward, getting into that real zone of championship contention, because that is where Lewis Hamilton has won his championships in the last couple of years, taking the fight. And by the time we've got to Singapore,
turning the screw.
But I think that is all the greats. That is what they're always able to do: dig deep, pull something out of the bag, and changing it.
Less of a reflection of Bottas not being able to have the consistency to have Baku pace, maybe in Japan stage of the season.
But I think if you do that sort of summer break and sort of when he came back, it wasn't quite sort of there. I think it all stems from that unlucky streak that he had, and then he sees his teammates sort of capitalise on that, and then you sort of, what have I got to do? What have I got to do?
That sort of gnaws away at you.
Yeah, it gnaws away at you, but you've actually got to sort of...
That's when you've got to step up.
That's when you've got to step up. You've actually got to put that aside and sort of
Which
go,
is what
right,
Lewis is
reset.
so good at.
Yes, that's what he's
when
grown
the pressure
very
comes,
strong.
he gets better.
Yes. And that's why you've probably seen maybe those mistakes from Sebastian, for example, which is something I wouldn't have expected to see. But he has made those. Then you go on to Lewis. It doesn't happen. It's just amazing what he's able to do. But then I go back to the greats, with the Senna and the Prosts, and even Nigel. Nigel used to dig so deep to wring the neck out of the car, but he was always able to sort of do it, even in difficult team circumstances. Ferrari himself with Alain Prost. Prost was number one. He didn't know he was number one. He thought he was number one as well, but it was focused more on him. But his grit and determination was to get out there, almost cause trouble for the team to beat Alain. And, he was a feisty, hard man. But that's what you've got to be down this pit lane. And that's why those greats are able to sort of just get that extra something out of themselves, even when things are a bit difficult.
We're looking at the Toro Rosso on track. Driving it yesterday was Daniel Kvyat. He had the fastest time, and he's down in the paddock with Rachel Brooks.
Well, I just found Danny Kvyat striding through the paddock. Always one of the fastest drivers when you're trying to catch them for an interview and they're walking. Denny, how are you feeling? How was the running yesterday? Topping the times must have been good.
Not only fastest while walking through the paddock, I hope. It was a good day yesterday, a really productive day, and obviously we're not looking too much into the timesheets, but the amount of work we wanted to do, and we completed the program and even did a couple of laps more. So what else can we ask for?
Right, I know you've got to go. Sorry, I won't keep you, but thanks very much, Danny.
No problem. Thanks, Rachel.
The briefest of words with Daniel Kvyat topping the times yesterday. The only driver who hasn't been in a Ferrari to top a time in the session, although we always do say don't pay attention to the times, and yet every single time we get to the end of the day, it's Kvyat sets the fastest time.
It's bragging rights as well.
Yeah, well, Toto, okay. Franz Tost. Franz Tost.
Yep.
By the way, I was going Toto Frost. I said, what?
Name
that doesn't
roulette.
really work. Yes,
Name
exactly.
roulette at the moment.
Yes, he came out and said, we were surprised. We were surprised with the speed of the car that way. So it always makes me laugh when they sort of go for a little bit of a spin. Oh, that was a surprise. But it's good to see. It's good for a driver to have sort of a good run like that, and for him and his sort of come back, it's just a positive thing that sort of you will always sort of use that energy, and I think it's a good thing for Daniel to have that. Let's say maybe they're going to give Albon a go. So far he's been able to achieve a good time so far. But we can see the times have actually sort of sped up, haven't they, over the last couple of days. I think as the rubber's sort of gone down, the track's actually improved as well, because the 17s were something we weren't seeing at all. It was only Kimi yesterday that popped the first 17 in that 17.6. So it's now becoming a little bit more. Obviously now we've got sort of Albon 17.6, Ricciardo 17.7, Hamilton 17.9, and then Leclerc on the 18th lap.
Yeah, the top three, that's Albon, Ricciardo and Hamilton, setting their times this morning on a step softer tyre than Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, who is now up to 83 laps for the day. Ferrari have set all of their times on that C3 tyre, which is the medium compound. Those ahead have done so on the softer rubber, so hugely encouraging that for Ferrari at this stage. Just to let you know the lap count, Albon has 59 laps, Ricciardo has 34, Hamilton has 58, then Leclerc has 83. Ferrari getting through the mileage this week.
They really are, aren't they?
Just incredible stuff. Started the day on 495 laps for a first test. Amazing reliability that they have seen.
Yeah, but that came, I remember Mercedes sort of doing that sort of over the last couple of years. You know, from that very onset of this new breed of Formula One cars we got, they were just pounding around doing sort of massive amount of laps, and everybody else at that point couldn't keep up. They were all sort of failing with engine issues that they were having. We were worried that we weren't going to get hardly any cars finishing in Australia, which miraculously, typically in Formula One style, they were able to turn it around, and I think we had only 2 cars not finish the race. But yes, it just proves once again that they've really come here very, very prepared, maybe the best they've ever been prepared.
And how useful is that from a driver's perspective, just to keep clocking up those miles?
Probably from a driving perspective, most of it is probably going to be all down to sort of data collection, maybe a lot of longer runs. So from a driver, it's just trying to sort of feel what the car's doing. But if you're doing a similar fuel run with the sort of similar tyres, you don't really sort of learn that much, because it's pretty much the same. It'll be just down to what the engineers and the data they want to sort of collect, and then they can analyse it and then maybe improve things. So from a driver, you just do the job that you're sort of employed to do, and you enjoy it while you're doing it anyway.
And presumably just good to blow away the cobwebs from a long winter, or at least what feels like a long winter when you've been out of the car. Yeah, well, I think I was saying with Alex yesterday, when I went testing in the very early 90s, I think we would have been done by about 40 laps. It was completely different back then. A lot of it was reliability. Yeah, a lot of it was on reliability, and that's where everything has changed. The reliability Ferrari have shown, and to be honest, the rest of the teams, the reliability is something that is so good nowadays, and it's, considering how complicated these cars are, they're amazingly reliable. You do realise that's commentator's curse. Come Australia, no one's going to see the checkered flag because of you.
And that's going to spice it up.
Oh, hello.
There you go. Spice it up. That's what we want.
Excellent stuff. So, 5th downwards, just to confirm the laps for the day. Bottas has 11 laps to his name, replacing Hamilton in the afternoon session. Then Giovinazzi in 6th has 81 laps. Then Grosjean 64, 77 for Gasly. Norris has 54 after his earlier trip to the gravel. And then we have Magnussen, who has logged 14. And Stroll has 47, 12th in the order. Robert Kubica with 38. He's been replaced in the car by Russell for the afternoon. And we now have an opportunity to have a look at the Haas on the circuit. We go on board with Grosjean, and we will hand the commentary over to Mr. Johnny Herbert, who can give us the driver's eye view on this lap from the morning session.
Yeah, that sort of sliding back end, typically out to that final chicane to sort of give it drive down towards turn 1. You know, about 325 kilometres or so into turn 1. Brake in, a little bit banked, trying to keep it sort of middle of the turn left. Really, go quite wide. Generally through turn 3, a lovely corner, gives you a lot of exhilaration there. My favourite corner, turn 4, very, very deep that you can go in. Then it opens up, you get on the throttle hard now as you go down towards turn 5, and I think this is where the car is a little bit understeery generally, but it accelerates out perfectly as we go towards turn 7. 7 always trying to kiss the curb on the inside, using more on the outside. He missed the apex in the first one. Lovely turn 9 at the top of the hill, always using all the curb that you possibly can. And of course, turn 10, A little bit changed. It used to go a little bit further on. Now it's sort of a little bit shorter. But it really does test the car, especially on this sort of long left-hander. Really does lean onto the back end. Can be quite tricky, quite bumpy through that right-hander. And as we come into this final section, that final chicane, just got to be clean. It's like anything. Kissing the curb on the left, kissing on the right, being able to get on the throttle without sliding at the back, which we saw there from Romain, and then driving across the line. So again, it was a real test, and this is one of those tracks that if the car works, there's a very good chance that it will work at nearly every track that you go to, because there is so many different forms of corner here, from the slow, the quick change of direction, to then those faster corners where you need a sort of a better flow of the car, not having that front end so sharp. So it really does test the car, but the drivers love it. They always come here and they thoroughly enjoy the challenge that the track has. And of course, as years go by, the cars generally go sort of faster and faster. That's what a driver always wants, to go as fast as he possibly can.
Absolutely, and a little bit of overtaking with the use of DRS. These two who raced each other in Formula 2, Leclerc and Albon, nearly getting in each other's way. And we've seen that a little bit with the Toro Rossos throughout the week. Whilst we were looking at one Haas setting a time from the morning session, Kevin Magnussen was setting his personal best, which is a 1:19.3. That was a few moments ago. He has now got 15 laps to his name. This was a few moments ago. Leclerc using DRS and getting past.
Yeah, it's not a big chunk of speed, sort of. It's not blast past, which I was a little bit worried about with that gap getting so big now with DRS. So from that point of view, a little bit went off there, I think he must have done. He was keeping out of the way, maybe.
Yeah, Magnussen going deep into turn one. Haas slightly on the back foot after the last few days. Yeah. They've brought out the red flag on 4 occasions. Of course, the big question when we get to this stage of the season is anyone going to upset the order? It was Haas last year. A lot of people talking about Alfa Romeo in 2019.
Yeah, Racing Point as well. I think you've got to throw them in the mix. The car, again, looks very, very good on track, and it's been able to consistently do some good lap times as well. So I think that middle pack might move closer to the top pack, which is exactly what we wanted. The gap last year wasn't, it was just too big. So I hope that now we will sort of get maybe one of these guys hanging on the back of whoever is sort of the third best team at the top.
That is exactly what we want. You're spot on. Something else that we want is something from you, actually, Alex, a bit of a poetic metaphor, I think, because we're being replaced at the top of the hour by Rachel Brooks and Will Buxton, which is a delight. Rachel's already up here in the comms box. Hi,
very keen. Hi, Rachel.
But Will is on his way, and those who were listening yesterday will remember Will describing the cars like swans gliding across a golden lake, which, always brought a tear to my eyes. So have you got anything that could come close to matching that, Alex?
No.
Thank God.
With probably good reason.
Right.
I think Will was getting to the delirious stage testing commentary.
Yeah, he was hallucinating.
I will continue to throw him under the bus until he appears, which he has not done.
As he's not within.
He's not here. We're doing the final hour to see if Will and I fall out later on Sky F1.
Just
then
when
we
the
have
sun is setting, when those golden swans
and we'll be back
reappear.
to the golden swans. I'll bring it up with him later on.
Please do. I did enjoy that. We both
yes,
did, didn't we?
You were ready to bring it up with him as well, weren't you?
The rest of the paddock listening to that. Gene Haas there with the new black and gold livery on that car. We had a Fittipaldi in the car yesterday in an old black and gold car. It was great to see. So we are coming to the end of the first hour of the afternoon session with those changes in terms of who's in the car, with Magnussen appearing, with Hülkenberg appearing, and with Hamilton getting out of the Mercedes and Bottas getting back in. Any other highlights from when you were trackside? Is there anything that stood out to you?
Just a highlight from now is it's good to see Kevin Magnussen out there and getting a personal best in, because it feels like he's been a bit anonymous until this stage. And obviously he only got 17 laps in so far this session, but he's a guy for me that, showed a lot of promise, particularly at the beginning of last year, as you've already alluded to, and a driver that I kind of want to see more from. I think we might do this year.
Yeah, and I like him. Again, there are occasions sometimes he does seem to get in the way of people during the session.
He's not the most popular driver after a race,
but I like that.
Yeah,
I
you
like
the
to have that little. Yes, exactly. I love that little bit of an. He is a tough racer, a bit like his dad Jan, who was a bit of a tiger when you were trying to race him. But I like that.
You didn't like the edginess when it was directed at you then.
Oh, don't worry. I would have stamped on it and stopped that happening. But no, he's just a bit of a feistiness that I think we want. Remember Max, when he came in, there was all this Max rule that was sort of stopping these guys sort of racing. And we don't want that. We want these guys to be proper wheel-to-wheel. Doing that Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna, 1 millimetre apart going down to turn 1 in Estoril in Portugal. That's the type of sort of racing we want to see. These guys are the best, with the best judgment. They'll be able to judge it. You can make it difficult for your fellow driver when he's overtaken. It shouldn't be sort of...
Probably a good idea.
I could go blue in my last 30 seconds on air, given I probably won't come up to the comms box ever again. You know, go out in the blaze of glory.
What have you made of it? What have you made of it up here?
I have absolutely loved it. Thank you so much. It's genuine privilege.
Yeah, you'll be back.
I don't know what Crofty's talking about. It's not that hard, is it? God,
easiest job in the world. Easiest job in the world.
Sweating. You don't know how hard I've had it.
And to tell everyone at home, we have 2 screens in the commentary box. We have timing. And we have what you are seeing on your screen at the moment. Crofty, spoilt rotten.
Yes.
He has the onboard feeds. He has the timing. He has the driver tracker. And I'm jealous of all of it.
There is another screen, and that's Johnny's YouTube clips, which is also open.
Queued up, the playlist ready to go.
Yes.
Silverstone 95, here we go.
I know. There's only a few of those queue-ups you can get, though. That's it. 3.
So we have got to 3 o'clock. Will Buxton has not appeared. Rachel Brooks is standing by, poised, ready to join the commentary. And it's been great to have so many different commentary combinations.
It's been good, actually, isn't it? It's a nice little...
And I think it's been nice for everyone at home to, you know, and this must be a nice...
responsibility.
Yeah, it must be nice to actually have a chair up here.
Oh, that's true. That's
rather than having to go up and down. I know how many steps Rosanna always says. Rosanna Tennant, who's also been on our coverage this week, always says that she does about 10,000 steps every single time she's in the pit lane.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit too exhausting for me, that.
This is quite nice, actually, isn't it? They're normally about, 6x4, the commentary boxes you normally
yeah,
have.
The Monaco one. Yeah, the Monaco one is a little bit tight.
This is
positively
palatial, isn't
it? Yes, we've got a table behind us, nothing really on it, but we've got, yes, it's lovely and roomy.
Now, I am going to hand the baton over to my dear friend and esteemed colleague, Rachel Brooks. Thank you, chaps, for your company. And I'm going to go back and start pounding the pit lane again and getting those steps up.
Great stuff.
Go on, then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalie.
Great, Natalie.
Bye-bye to everyone at home. I will see you in the pit lane shortly.
So Charles Leclerc on circuit, and car number 16 using quite a bit of the curb there as he comes out of the final corner and takes it across the line to go on to lap 93 of his day. Ferrari, who started today at 460 laps to their name, logging yet more data, yet more mileage. It is going perfectly for the Scuderia at the moment.
Yeah, it is. And again, you can see the way sort of riding the curbs there. The one car that rides the best out of the whole bunch, probably not surprising to anybody because it seems to be something they've done very well at in the past, is the Red Bull. It still looks so good, and I saw Max, I think it was on day 1 or day 2, going through that final chicane, especially on the entrance on the left. And yes, mounting the curb, and the car didn't really sort of go, oh, I don't like that, and bounce all over the place. So it's sort of quite supple when it goes over those curbs, and there are certain tracks that we will go to where that's going to actually be quite useful, and it can be Australia. If you can cut those curves and use them without it just spitting you off, you can gain a little bit of an advantage there. So it seems that Red Bull looks to me being the best, and then Ferrari, I would say, is not far behind.
Rachel Brooks has joined us in the commentary box.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you making your way up from the pit lane. How good is it at the end of the pit lane when you get to see the practice starts like that? I think that's a phenomenal thing.
It is amazing. It's one of my favourite places to be, and especially at testing as well, because you get so close to the cars, and you do need to put your fingers in your ears. People complaining about noise, you do need to put your fingers in your ears when you're that close to them, I can assure you. But you were just talking there, actually. I went out earlier in the week with Karun to have a look around as well, and one thing that struck us, which really was clear, was at heading towards turn 4, from 3 to 4, watching the cars go down there, it was how late those top three, Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari, can get on the brakes and how early they can get on the power. And that was a really, really clear picture for us of the difference sort of between the top three and the rest of the field at the moment. We went down this morning, Johnny, didn't we, and had a look. And you can, actually just standing there listening as well is amazing to actually hear when those guys can, how late they can leave it and then how early they're back on the power.
Yeah, and it was slightly less clear actually watching it from, I think, from when we were there. There seemed to be quite a similar sort of pace going through the corner. But I know you were my personal assistant, weren't you?
Oh, you want those times,
when
don't
we
you?
were doing, well, we have a little bit of this sort of speed. We ran through a bit of the speed. So we were.
You were a braver man than me calling Rachel your personal assistant, Johnny Herbert.
Analyst. I think we came up with the word analyst earlier, didn't we?
Personal assistant. Personal. I will stick with personal assistant.
You haven't seen
You're
me
not going to
carrying
hit
his
me.
belongings
Put that
for
hand
him,
down.
I think.
But yeah, so basically we were sort of straight on for them coming out of turn 3, coming into turn 4. And the way that I was able to get the speed, there's a sort of a shade coming from the bridge that's going across, and that's roughly where it started to pick up. So it's just I think as they've sort of started to break. So the speeds, I think, from very
Which
early
team would
on.
you like?
Well, if we do it with the Ferrari, that seems to be the at the same time. And I think the Red Bull was another one that actually they were quite good as well. It was
164 was there.
162. So that's actually, that was quite high. Now, I know that's all to be down to the brake and, as I said, the stability that you were saying that you could see out there with crew. I suppose the biggest thing was actually then seeing that apex. We moved a little bit further round to get the apex speed of that turn 4. Now, if we do the Ferrari, where was the Ferrari?
108, 107, 103, 92, 100, 101, 103.
Yeah, and then it was a bit lower for the Red Bull itself. So we've got to watch, obviously, because we don't know what tyres are on and, of course, the fuel levels. But the one car that was not impressive was the Mercedes.
It was. We'll come back to that in a second, because we're just having a look at the Toro Rosso here.
Yeah,
it damage.
We saw Alex Albon off the road. He's been off 2 times today at turn number 8, and there appears to be a bit of damage to the floor, so he might have to come in and see about getting that changed. Talking of change, we've got a change in the commentary box. I'm going to make way for the golden swan of Formula One himself, Mr. Will Buxton.
Lovely to spend a few minutes with you, Alex, as you change over. We'll still have a look at
the golden swan. That was yesterday, wasn't it?
Your golden swans in the sun. Sunset or the sun setting at the track.
I forgot all about that. I wondered.
Oh no, go on then.
Can I?
I've no idea.
Okay.
No idea.
Well, I'm just going to turn down the truck so they can't talk to me. Yeah, I've got a book coming out. May the 30th, my first book.
Cool.
Bit of plug, quick. What's it called?
My Greatest Defeat. So yes. Anyway, I've been told I've got to stop, but I'm very, very happy, very excited.
Well, you were down there in the pit lane with me just now.
Yes.
Just tell me what you noticed.
It's very sunny.
It's very warm.
It is. It really.
warm
No, it really is. Do you know what? It's the level of calm.
It is, isn't
that
it?
exists at the moment, even down at Williams. It's just it's not placid, but there's no stress. There's no one's freaking out. No one. Testing, and that is an achievement in and of itself. Yes.
Why do you think that is? All the drivers seem relatively happy with their cars already. I know you guys were talking about it, Johnny, in the last hour, about the fact that when we went to look out, none of those cars look bad. Usually you come to testing and you look and you think, oh, that's going to be a long year for them, when you look at the car at testing. Why do you think everybody is at a decent level already this year?
Johnny?
I think it's the typical situation of Formula One is when we've had this sort of new formula in, what was it, sort of 7 odd years ago, where, you know, we had Mercedes way ahead of everybody else. As time has gone by, everybody has been able to catch up. And they've been able to catch up because obviously they've been able to sort of look at what the other teams are doing. They only really have that winter time break to sort of get the cars properly sort of developed. And I think they've been able to do that in a way this year especially, because there was always game to be made. With the Mercedes, there's less game to be made. So their abilities of getting sort of different personnel in to be able to sort of adapt their cars in a positive manner has started to come, and it's always about getting the right people in to be able to understand what you're doing as a team, to then actually utilise that knowledge and then put it into the car itself.
I think, Johnny, the word that you and yet they have produced good solid cars. The rest of the cars out there, the Ferraris, the Mercedes, the Red Bulls, are very much evolutions on what went before, which is why I think we're seeing such dependable times, such dependable cars, and such stable cars as well. That it's just a push through of what we had before. Yes, new regulations with the front wing and the rear wing, but the basis of what the car is tried and tested.
No, sure, but it's an opportunity as well for that mid-packer cars, and maybe some a little bit further as well, to develop a car in something fresh, and they all knew at the same time when it was going to be coming, so they all had the same time to be able to develop it, to get it to a point they're actually on the racetrack. Prior to this, when this whole formula started, it was Mercedes who were way ahead of the game.
Yes.
Way ahead of the game. So no one else really had a chance in hell of being competitive in the first couple of years. That's where it's sort of everybody's got better. Now with these new rules, everybody knowing at the same time and being able to have the same time and chance to develop it, and I think that's why we've got that little bit more of a tighter pack.
As we always see, when regulations remain relatively stable, everybody sort of what you know, unless as Johnny says, you are a team like an Alfa Romeo.
We do the Alfa with that
or like a McLaren. Bingo.
Yeah.
You need to find something that will pull you up and get you back into the mix of fighting for the, at first, upper echelons of the midfield, and then into the fights with the Mercedes, with the Ferraris, and with the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will work. Like with Alfa Romeo, if they found that silver bullet. It's not an easy thing to copy.
Yeah, and I think one thing that has been very interesting as well, because this is normally quite a tough old track on the tyres as well, and I think the way that these new rules have sort of come in, the way that they've been able to develop the car over the off season, the blistering, or let's say graining, hasn't actually been very big. I've seen it, but it's not huge. So I get that balance that when we were on the track that we saw, that is what they're able to capitalise on. They're not overloading the tyre in any way, which I think is something that is hopefully going to benefit the racing when we come to Melbourne and beyond.
Well, the one interesting thing that we've seen from certainly the morning running is the teams having cold graining.
Cold graining, sure.
Which has been, obviously it's nothing that we get anywhere else at any time of year apart from maybe Friday morning in China, most of the weekend at Silverstone, and and a little bit at Spa.
Yeah.
This Leclerc time, the 1:18.0, you had a message from Karun Chandhok talking about this very strong pace. That was the start of a 14 stint lap on the C3, and that's an impressive time.
Yes.
From him. Ferrari, although they're not showing their full hand, there are little clues here that this is a very good, quick car this year.
Again, Ferrari all 4 days, lap times within a couple of tenths of each other in the low 1 minute 18s. And for Leclerc on both days, day 2 and day 4, his lap set at the very start of a longer run. I think it was a 10-lap stint on his first day, so as Karine says, a 14-lap stint today. And then from that point on, consistent running. You know, they haven't shown us their full hand. Again, that lap time set on the C3 yellow branded tyre, the times above the Ricardos, the Hamiltons, the Albons, all on, I think, either C4 or C5, the red sidewall tyre. So there's an awful lot of time left in that Ferrari, and as Charles said over the lunch break, I'm not even trying yet. I'm not even pushing. You know, and they've got, if the fears are to be believed and the talk around the paddock, Ferrari have got half a second in hand over Mercedes, all things being equal.
Mercedes do seem to think they are a little bit behind, but they seem to not be overly concerned in that they think they know where to find it, but actually knowing where to find it and putting that on track is a different thing, isn't it, altogether?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, we go back to when we were on track and we sort of have a look at our mid-corner speeds. And it's exactly what the Ferrari is able to do. You know, its actual speeds are higher than anybody else. They're pretty consistent in the run out. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, it was 5, 6 laps, I think he was able to do there, compared to everybody else.
Except the Mercedes, unfortunately, who weren't out when
unfortunately, we weren't out.
And I was taking your notes for you.
But they were heavy then, so they
were heavy.
You'd
you're
never
right,
ever get a true sign. But compared to everybody else, that Ferrari was able to do it every single lap that it sort of went round. So that does show that consistency is there, the ease is there, and that is where, like Charlie's saying, I'm not actually needing to push. So
I like the fact we've all coalesced around calling him Charlie. Or Charlie's good. He'd be a good Williams driver called Charlie, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I think he's happy where he is.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, particularly already. We've only just started.
No, but it's good. It was just good to see. I think when we were out there, and it was good for you and Natalie just to sort of have a bit of an idea and see. And even you were able to notice the differences between the cars. No, it was. But it's good because that's a rarity, isn't it? So I know you did it with Karun, but it's a good thing to see.
And the other thing we went and had a really good look at was the rake, the difference in rake. And if you go to the straight between 3 and 4, you can, as they're approaching into turn 4, you can really see the difference between the Red Bull and the Mercedes, for example, or the Red Bull and pretty much the rest of the field.
Yes.
In terms of their rate and comparison. And that was really interesting.
Renault's got a much higher angle.
It has, it has.
Well, it's interesting to sort of bring that up to what you were saying about sort of how development has gone. How long has it taken people to go down the route of Red Bull, who did this years ago?
But they've done it in small increments.
No one else was able to
take a long time.
But also, in order to do that, you can't, on the Mercedes, you can't immediately put the same amount of rake on the car because they've gone for a longer wheelbase car.
Oh, no, I get that.
You know, you've got to completely shift the wheelbase in order to make
that whole philosophy.
Yeah, the whole philosophy of the car. So, but where Red Bull's making it work brilliant, there's that oscillation on the rear wing again. They've put the T wing back on, I think, to try and level that out. What's fascinating for me with Renault is they don't have the S duct on the nose. So the Red Bull philosophy very much has the two. You've got the rake working in conjunction with that S duct on the nose. So it's really pointy. That front end is so dependable on the Red Bull. And Renault, you know, particularly with Daniel there, he may want more out of that front end. He may want them to come up with an S-duct style thing so that he can get that confidence and not have an understeery car. Know that it's exactly where he wants it to be, because for Daniel, as a great overtaker, he needs to know that when he hits the anchors, he can stick that thing on its nose and put it up the inside of somebody.
Yeah. But that's also down to me, for what I can see with the Red Bull. We always have that sparky front end. Normally it was sort of in a qualifying trip. Is they've got, to me, a very, very clever sort of floor mechanism that somehow is able to absorb that extra sort of load that it's getting when it's touching. I know we've got the skids on there that are supposed to help that. But that is something I think they've done very well over the last couple of seasons. And again, I think it's that front end, and that's precisely how you're going to get that, if you can run the car a little bit lower as well. And I think that's where all the others are trying to sort of think down the same line.
And you see how quickly they lost that when the two were running a little bit too close together in Baku.
Yeah,
and you know, and all of a sudden you hit the anchors, you've got nothing there, because you need that little bit of clean air to make that work.
Yeah.
Where do we think Renault are? Because they've definitely improved since day one. And they have made improvements to that car. Where do you think they're sitting in the midfield right now?
The key thing is talking to Daniel at lunch today and saying, look, this isn't a car that was designed, the gestation period for this car was not for you. It wasn't designed around you or your needs or your desires. Is it a car that you can adapt to you? and he said that every change he's put on the car has done exactly what he wanted it to. And so he feels great. He feels that this is a car that he can mould to himself and his driving style and get the most out of. Where they sit in the ultimate sort of pantheon, it's so hard to say, because we don't know. We don't know the level of fuel that everyone's running. We know that on the same type of tyre, they appear to be in comparable form to a Toro Rosso or a Mercedes. Does that mean that the Toro Rosso is faster than... We don't know, because we don't know the fuel. But from all you can do is take a feeling, and he feels good.
I think it's the Alpha they're behind.
I think most people are going to be.
Maybe they're going to be very, very close with that Racing Point and probably that Toro Rosso.
Yeah, I think the Toro Rosso, the Alpha, and the Renault look incredibly close at the moment.
I think the Alpha
don't know which order that's in.
The edge.
You do? You think the Alpha's the edge?
So it's very slick in a straight line. And the power unit seems to be working very, very well. We've seen some of the times that they've been able to do a little bit earlier on. I know it's early days, but again, as soon as it goes on track, they're able to sort of do those times sort of quite easily. Like
we don't know what's going to happen when everyone starts to turn the engines up. We don't know whose party mode is going to be the most efficient in qualifying. We don't know if the Honda, which has proved to be reliable and dependable and fast, will be so when it's turned up. And if it's not, does that mean that Red Bull falls out of the mix and that Alpha could find themselves in a top three team place? Again, it's a question mark that we don't know the answer to, and we won't know the answer to until we get to Australia. But Alpha, I think, could find themselves in that Haas position of last year, that we get to Australia and they are the fourth best team on merit, but they have to do what Haas failed to and take that opportunity with both hands.
And I think that would be track dependent as well. So I think there'll be certain tracks that maybe that Alpha will be able to, sort of, as you say, be in that sort of fourth position. But I think Racing Point will be in a very similar position as well, because that car looks actually very handy as well.
And that's not even the Melbourne spec yet.
No. Of course, so much
many
stuff I know
upgrades
to
bring.
go. I know.
Yeah. Can I just say, if you are of the persuasion to part with your money easily, you may want to part with some on Alpha getting a podium this season.
Do you know what?
I would
first weekend,
I would agree.
Really? I'd stick a quid on it. You know, why not?
Big spender, Will.
Well, you know. Hey, if the odds are like 500 to 1.
Oh, if the odds are like that,
I think
then I'll put 250
a lot shorter than that. I think they'll be a lot shorter than that.
I've got a wedding to pay for, man. I can't go throwing away money on bets.
So have I might do that as well. Good idea.
You've got two to pay for.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no,
I forgot about that one as well. Yeah, mine.
Yeah, I was going to say, what the hell happened over the winter?
I've done that many years.
Well, if your wedding's anything like the parties you throw, then you need to put a lot more than that on to get it back.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating because it's good for us. It's good for everybody at home.
I love the fact there are so
unknown.
many there and up there at the moment. I love it. This is making us so excited. The season because you don't know what's going to happen, but actually they look so much closer.
There's quality, which is great, and again,
the driver moves as well mean that you've got more unknowns in the team.
The whole dynamics that are going on. We've got some, these young drivers. I'm loving that. I'm loving sort of having George around. It's great to have Albon as well, and it's good with Giovinazzi having his chance once again. I hope that works out for him because I think he's got a good car that will enable him to sort of show that talent that I think a lot of people believe in. And of course, then we got Norris at the same time. He's
on our show
great.
tonight. He's coming in for a chat. We're watching him on track at the moment,
which is great.
But he's
coming
on
good to see.
the review show tonight to tell us how
impressive,
he's
actually,
testing.
I think, personally, from what he sort of did from the early days.
Had a weird one this morning. That little odd, slow twitch was a very odd.
Yeah, sure. But overall, I think from himself, performances have actually been very good with, against Carlos, to be perfectly frank. We don't know exactly what the programs are entirely, but I think overall he's adapted to it very, very well.
I was just having a think about McLaren. Sporting manager role. They've got Fernando potentially coming back and having his influence on it. There's so much going on at McLaren that could either take them back to where they deserve to be and where they all know they should be, or has the potential to completely blow up. And this was this morning, just coming in really low speed. And
very odd.
The rear started to come round a little bit. I don't know if he just caught it too much. It was, at full tilt we've seen drivers do that.
No, sure.
That slow.
That either looks like sort of oil getting on the tyres or suspension. issue, because the way that sort of, as you said, that sort of went right then left. It was like something was not completely working on the rear end, I would say, from that point. Still smiling though.
Yes.
Still smiling. But yes, they've got a lot to prove. With all those elements coming into play, the biggest thing is going to be down to how the car performs.
As
whatever happens,
logo says, they will be hoping for a better tomorrow.
And I hope so, because from everything
fearlessly forward.
But everything we've sort of learnt so far on their longer runs, it doesn't look at the moment as if there has been enough progression. But in these early days, let's
fearlessly forward, not bewilderingly backward. I think is the hope of McLaren.
That's definitely not a hashtag to be using.
It's definitely not.
Yeah, but let's hope so. As you said before, there's a lot of changes going to come before we get to the next test, and again, changes again once we get to Melbourne itself.
I do think from a design perspective, it's one of the most intriguing cars out there, because there's those little flicks and wings coming up on the leading edge of the side pod, the treatment between the front wheel and the side pod. There's a lot going on that car that, again,
But do they work?
Well, this is it.
That's the thing.
This is it.
Do they work? It's a lot more complicated than we've been seeing probably from everybody else in many regards, isn't it? It looks more complicated.
Just chuck it all on and
yes, we're taking it off one at a time. Oh, well, they're doing it the other way around. Just take one off.
It's those moments, isn't it, in the middle of a race when someone's had a ding-dong with somebody else, and this piece of carbon fibre that's worth £75,000 flies off and the car goes too fast.
Do I need to come in?
No. This is good. But I don't have my nose anymore. The front wings keep going.
Absolutely, yes. That's happened for decades. All the money spent on them, you have a bit of a ding and something comes off, like you said.
Well, you were talking about testing in Portugal and slapping the Monza wings back on and the thing going 2 seconds a lap faster.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable.
You're going to get your golden swans tonight, Will, because temperature's gone up outside. It's the warmest of the week, 25 odd degrees now out there.
Nice temperature.
Purely, it's beautiful weather.
You see, I was going for the, quoting the Beatles and going down the whole Golden Slumbers route. And
is that what it was?
No, but then I didn't, and it went all, I don't know, just went a bit flowery, really, didn't it?
Johnny, you were watching this Ferrari yesterday and that front wing moving around a little bit.
Yeah, the rear wing. Yeah, it was sort of.
Rear wing. Sorry. You said front wing last night at dinner.
Well, it's both, because you get the front wing sort of does its normal sort of little bendy on the flaps.
It is
going on.
But
I know I only do it because was it yesterday I was showing some rear wing shots of different cars, and it was sort of moving around there. But yes, you always get the front end on this Ferrari that always looks quite flexible, shall we say. And they're all tested, they all go through that sort of scrutineering, but it does seem to sort of do it a little bit more than the others. I know the Mercedes does the same thing, but it's all then down to how that sort of changes the balance, how quickly it sort of all resets itself, let's say. So it's something they've worked very hard on over the last couple of seasons.
You mentioned scrutineering. You've got changes to scrutineering this year.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Self-scrutineer. Sign your car off and then they'll check it at the end of the race.
Which is good idea.
Well, yeah, and obviously there is this whole issue of weight and how much fuel you're putting in and how much you say you've used and whether the fuel flow limiter is giving the correct readings at the end, which I think it's interesting. And they only ever make a change like that if they've had their attention brought to a potential bending of the rules. Reminds me of great moments in Formula One history when was it Tyrrell who ran the cars underweight with the water-cooled brakes, and rather than just filling the car up with water after the race, also it was gallons of water and 140 pounds of lead shot to bring the car back up. They were disqualified from the whole 1984 season.
Yeah, sure. Back then, it was a bit more of a simplistic thing to get away with.
Quick, fill the car up with lead shot.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit now. And then, but back in when I was karting, way back in, used to put the cart on the scales. You used to weigh it anyway, to be a certain weight, and you always sort of be there with your knee leaning on. If you're a little bit sort of close to the weight, it's leaning on the.
You always see.
I
think Kevin and Sebastian are two of the guys who, when their teammates are being weighed in the FIA remarks,
the other way on the back.
Filled it up.
Yeah,
it's. I mean, there was that rumor, wasn't there? Which was it the Japanese Grand Prix that Mika won, and Ron Dennis did the most un-Ron Dennis thing ever, ran on with a massive bucket of water and tipped it over Mika. And there was the rumor that
make him heavier.
It was
bingo, because when he went to driver plus car, and if Mika's suit was full of water, then it would get him plus car up to the relevant weight.
The drivers all seem pretty happy about being able to put some weight on over the winter and not have to meet.
So.
Well, I was talking to Esteban Ocon over lunch. He can't put any weight on.
Well, no, he can't.
Old little chicken legs he can't put the weight on. Bless him. And he's eating.
He's trying with his hair at the moment because his hair's got very long. I think he's trying to add weight there.
He's not changing it. He's not changing it either. No, he can do at the moment.
He's also on our show tonight, by the way, so we've got to be a bit nicer about him.
He's in a good space.
Yes,
he is, very much so. Very much so. I hope that window of opportunity does open.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't sort of get rusted up.
He'll be pretty. I think there's a lot of confidence he'll be on the grid next year.
And imagine that you're Valtteri, because you know that every little mistake that Valtteri makes out on track, the cameras will cut to the Mercedes garage, and there will be Esteban sitting next to Toto. And that is the Valtteri is going to have to deal with this year, is every single thing that camera cut back to the garage. Esteban sitting next to Toto.
But I think Mercedes will manage that. I think they're well aware that's what people are talking about. I think they'll manage. I also think Valtteri has come back a different mindset. You spent some time with him over the winter. Yes. He's a different Valtteri. I think you called him Valtteri Mark II.
Yeah.
He looks mentally so much stronger.
And it's not just it's upstairs.
Yes, it's in there.
It's funny you say it. We had a little bit earlier on where they ran the interview, and it was